Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose, and it's another one of those lovely Mondays. Hope everybody's ready for a new week, and actually, shout out to David Scott. I saw you in the comments yesterday saying it was your birthday, so happy birthday to David Scott. I do hope you have a great one. We do have a lot of things to talk about today, though, as fans clamoring for the return of E3 will be very happy because it is now indeed returning, though it is just a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. Also, we got some new details on at least one new Xbox project, and maybe even a hint towards yet another. Per usual, though, if you do find yourself enjoying the video, you know what to do. Hit those magical buttons below. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Let it ring, let it ring. Let's just go and jump right into the video, though, and actually, I want to start the week off with just kind of a roundup of some new highly acclaimed releases. My goal with this channel is always to highlight great games to kind of help you discover what to play next, and over the last week or so, there's been some rather solid releases that may be going just a little bit under the radar. This includes Return to the Monkey Island for the Switch, the DLFil Chronicle that is a multi-platform game, and then Grounded 1.0 being that first-party Xbox game. So reviews have been kind of trickling in for all three of these games, and for you Monkey Island fans out there, you all should just be absolutely thrilled, as the way it looks like it was well worth it. It does have an 87 overall score on Metacritic. So it looks like this is a must-play for fans of the franchise, or really even if you just like point-and-click adventures. You know, I actually do intend on playing this one myself. Might wait for that physical release. I haven't decided quite yet, but yes, Monkey Island is looking very good. Then for the DLFil Chronicle, this is that new Square Enix tactical RPG. Square Enix as a whole has just been doing a really good job this year, and right now it does have an 82 overall score. It's only 5 reviews though, and with the Switch and PC, they do have lower scores, so just kind of take that as you will. One thing does seem pretty consistent with this game though. People do seem to like its unique take on combat, so it might be worth a try for fans of the genre. Lastly though, Grounded has been around for a few years through early access, but its full single player is out now, and as expected, Obsidian Entertainment did it once again. It's turned out to be a good game with an 81 overall score as of this video. That can always change, but of course, Grounded is available in Game Pass, so do keep that in mind. But there you go, 3 games that you can try for yourself right now if any of those do interest you. We are heading into that holiday season though, and you know, despite the countless delays this year, I mean, it's really been just like a weekly thing, but the next few months should be a lot of fun for gamers with games like God of War. You have Bayonetta 3 incoming, and you know, there's Sonic Frontiers, and the list just kind of goes on and on and on, so it should be a fun time. Next up, here's something that really took me by surprise. I was not expecting this at all, but Capcom and Netflix just revealed yet another collaboration, this time for Onimusha. Yes, Onimusha is getting a new Netflix anime. Now we've seen Netflix have a lot of success with these game adaptations over the last few years, whether that be with something like Castlevania, you have that new Cyberpunk Edge Runner show that everybody's just kind of going crazy about, or even with The Witcher. Now, technically, that's based off books, not games, but gamers are still definitely going to pay attention to that show as well. But when it comes to Onimusha, this is a rather interesting choice because we haven't really seen this IP in a very long time. I want to say the last time that we completely got a new Onimusha game was back in like 2006 or something for the PlayStation 2. So, I mean, it's been a while since we've seen this IP, and that, you know, that does beg the question, why the sudden interest in Onimusha? Well, when I started to think about this, it kind of reminded me of another Capcom Netflix adaptation, being Dragon's Dogma. I mean, I thought that show was kind of garbage and everything, so sorry for those that did enjoy it, but that anime did release before they eventually announced Dragon's Dogma 2. Now, I do hope that turns out to be good, because that first game was, you know, it's definitely an overlooked RPG. But I think Capcom here, I think they're trying to give these IP more exposure before their next big release. And I wonder if they're maybe doing something similar here when it comes to Onimusha. Now, this is just simply speculation, but at the very least, if you are a fan of this franchise, I think this is something worth paying attention to, even if that only means just a new anime. Now, speaking of franchises that we haven't seen for a while, one series that we just keep hearing about is Silent Hill. I mean, the ongoing rumors of a new Silent Hill just keeps popping up as seemingly every single insider believes that this game is coming. But interestingly enough, we did get more of an official update over the weekend as a new Silent Hill trademark did emerge over in South Korea. This is for Silent Hill, the short message that was rated, and the publisher is listed as Uniana. Now, hopefully I'm actually pronouncing that properly, but apparently Uniana does regularly publish Konami games in South Korea, so that does kind of line up. And as we've seen throughout the years, when a game gets rated, an announcement does often follow sooner rather than later. So, I mean, by this point, a new Silent Hill game, it is definitely looking more legit than ever before, and now the question just kind of becomes, is this a new mainline entry? Is it a spin-off, or is it even a console and PC game? I mean, technically, it could be a mobile release. Hopefully not, but from what I've been hearing so far, it does sound like that it will be a console and PC game. I mean, crossing my fingers for all of that. Now, with that said, we do have a few rumors to keep in mind here. There were those leaks of a Silent Hill 2 remake. We've heard a lot about that. We've maybe even seen some pictures. That seems like that's going to be handled by Bloober Team. We've also heard of more of an episodic series that has some short stories. Maybe it could be that, and then possibly a completely new game. So, I mean, when you start to consider all of that, this could be a number of different things. But again, one thing is becoming clear. You Silent Hill fans out there that's just been waiting and waiting and waiting, well, it looks like something is indeed coming. And we might even hear about it sometime here soon. I'm thinking maybe the Game Awards, that could be a place that we could end up seeing this new Silent Hill game. Now, speaking of showcases, the Gamers Holiday, aka E3, is now officially coming back in 2023 on June 13th to the 16th with, yes, a physical event. This was reported by GameIndustry.biz and then confirmed by the official E3 Twitter themselves. So if you are one of those fans that's been hoping for an E3 return, your wish has now been granted, and their plans actually do sound pretty good on paper. It is a little bit different this time around, but not really vastly so, or at least for consumers. So what's happening here is that it's being reported that they have three main goals. As you can see here, their plans are to make a better business event where it's easier to connect, meet, and conduct interviews, make a better consumer experience where there are things for fans to actually do, and then third, they want to partner, support, and be friends with everyone announcing games in and around E3, irrespective of whether they're actually in the convention center. So that's more for those digital showcases. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Either way, the way they're going to do all this is by splitting up the consumer side of things from the business side, for both time management and in locale. On the first 2 days, it will strictly be for just business, the third will be for both, and then the fourth day will be specifically for consumers. On top of that, if you attend E3 yourself, the space will be split with one half of the center dedicated to business, while the other side has things consumers can do. Booths, gameplay, and things like that, I'm sure. And ultimately, I think that this is a good change that could actually yield some good results. Now, the reason I say that is because it does give journalists and developers a more comfortable place to work. They can collaborate more, set up business arrangements and things like that, networking, all that type of stuff. That also means that journalists, they can kind of conduct better interviews, and that's really been a big part of E3's history. We've kind of lost that here in recent years, but E3 is definitely a good place to get more specific details on games from developers. And I think by giving them a better place to work, like you're seeing here, we could actually see some good interviews from things like that. Now, from a viewer's perspective, though, that's what most people do look forward to, and it is planned to be a big physical spectacle again, as long as publishers attend. They'll, of course, partner up with digital showcases as well. We did kind of touch upon that a moment ago, but there's really nothing like that live crowd when big, exciting announcements are made. It's been a few years since we've gotten a really good live crowd, and that could, maybe, potentially come back next year, as E3 is giving publishers a place to do that if they want to. That there is kind of the big question here, though. Will the big three, Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox, actually attend? They really are the heart of E3. There's no doubt about that, and it's hard to tell if they'll actually come back. See, I do like the idea of what E3 is trying to do for 2023, and they are going to kind of partner up with these digital showcases, but that's one of the things that we've really seen over the last few years, is that none of the big three necessarily needs to have a physical showcase to get large viewership that creates a lot of excitement. I know a lot of fans want to see these events come back, but really with both Nintendo and PlayStation by this point, they do have their own digital showcases that's been, yes, very, very successful. And I don't really see them changing that anytime soon. As we've talked about countless times on this channel, E3 is also very expensive for these publishers. And because of all of that, I could just see them putting on their own digital events in June alongside that E3 branding. Which, I mean, technically, they'll still be a part of E3 and you'll get those consecutive events, which that's really cool for fans. But yes, I could see them going in that direction. And I don't know if they'll necessarily do those live physical events as many are hoping to see. I'd like to see them go back to E3 with those physical showcases, but I just don't know if they actually will. Xbox, they're kind of the ones that I look at and think, yeah, they could be the one to attend. I could see them doing it just because they do have the Microsoft Center, and out of all the big three, they are the ones that do like to play into their audience. Plus, they still don't have their own digital showcases that they lean on too much. They're a little bit more old school and just wait for these big showcases like E3, Gamescom, and the Game Awards. So I do have a little more hope that they'll attend. But all in all, I think that there's definitely still some questions surrounding E3, but as a fan myself, I do hope we get attendance because E3 really does bring the industry together with just so much excitement, and I don't think that there's a replacement for it. I know the Summer Game Fest certainly hasn't been it. This year's Summer Game Fest was absolutely atrocious in my opinion, but either way, let me know what you all think about all this. Do you like their plans, and do you think any or all of the big three will show up with their own physical event? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, we also got an update for an Xbox project, and maybe even a hint towards yet another one. Gotta explain that here in just a moment, but first, let's just go and check out what I'm talking about. So, Certain Affinity is working on Halo Infinite. We've known about this for a while, that you have a long history on assisting the Halo franchise, but it sounds like they're taking on an even bigger role this time around, as they are working on a brand new multiplayer game mode for Halo Infinite, and whatever that ends up being is starting to sound like this is going to be quite significant, because check this out. This here is a statement that they made in an interview with VentureBeat. The biggest thing we're doing that's public right now, for more than 2 years now, we've been working on Halo Infinite, doing something that they're very prescriptive about what we can say. But we're doing something unannounced, and we're doing lead development on that unannounced thing, from conception and design. It's something big and new for the franchise, but I can't say any more about it. That's our single largest project of our 3 projects currently. We have close to 100 developers working on that. So, there's actually 3 things that really stands out about this statement. We'll get to the third a little bit later on, but 1, that's a lot of resources for a new game mode. 100 developers? Yes, that's a lot. Now, 2, it's also a big time commitment, with it being in development for 2 years. And I imagine whatever they're referring to, it's probably not going to release this year. You know, Season 3, that's not even being planned to release until next year. So it could, whatever they're working on here, could be nearing 3 years of development by the time it releases. And that does have me very, very curious. By all means, it is starting to sound like this is going to be a major release that could almost stand tall on its own. And I think when you start to think about it that way, it makes you think about things like Warzone and Call of Duty, a game mode that's so big that it warrants its own dedicated team with a lot of resources, a lot of time, can be played entirely separate. So, I mean, when you put all that together, I do wonder if maybe they're putting together their own version of something like a Battle Royale. Like, I know a lot of Halo fans don't really care for Battle Royales. I don't really like them myself. But there have been some rumors out there that they might be working on a Battle Royale with their own spin on things. Windows Central, they reported that they might have their own version with multiple lives and maybe even ways to revive yourself in a match. So in that way, I think that it would be its very own thing, making it unique, while also playing into that huge Battle Royale crowd. That there, though, is what we know. Battle Royales, when successful, I mean, that's not always the case, but when successful, can absolutely just blow up. So this could be a big thing for Halo Infinite, which right now does need it. You know, that's kind of the thing, because Halo Infinite has struggled with having consistent new content since it first released. We know that Halo Infinite wants to be active for like 10 years, and, you know, this is a live service game. It's free to play this time around, so they need that content. And with something like this, alongside things like Forge Mode, this could actually bring back Halo Infinite in a major way when they eventually release. The third part about this statement, though, was a little bit more coy, but they did say, quote unquote, the biggest thing that we're doing that's public right now. The key word there is public, meaning that they do have another major project that they're working on that they've yet to announce. Now, they did mention that they are working on a new IP in this interview, and if you remember right, this all does kind of line up with something that we've already talked about in the past, and that's that they are working on a brand new Monster Hunter-like IP that is being published by Xbox Game Studios. So I think that this just kind of adds even more credence to that specific rumor. Xbox and certain Affinity, they definitely seem like they have a very tight relationship right now. They have this Halo game mode coming. It sounds like it's going to be pretty major, and then possibly that Monster Hunter-like IP as well. And honestly, with all this, once that Activision Blizzard acquisition finishes up, whenever that may be, certain Affinity might be a studio to kind of pay attention to here. They could be a possible target in the future. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, with Sony fighting against the Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition, do you think Microsoft will get it through regulations? And as you can see here, this is probably one of the more lopsided poll results that I have seen so far, but 91% of you said yes, while only 5% of you said no. So, yeah, you all seem fairly confident here, and honestly, I am with you all on this one. I think that this acquisition is more likely than not to get through regulations. Now, the reason I say that is because, for one, Microsoft is not the market leader when it comes to game industry. The game industry also has a lot of competition. And then, when it comes to Sony, they're the only ones that are kind of complaining about this, which really kind of comes off as hypocritical. I mean, there's a lot of evidence out there that shows that the same things that they're complaining about, they do themselves. They sign popular and beloved IP like Final Fantasy, when we've talked about this so many times, like Street Fighter and games like that. They have Spider-Man as an exclusive. All of those are popular and beloved IP, and they are exclusive to PlayStation. They've also been acquiring studios left and right, and, because of all of that, there's a lot of evidence that goes against them here, and I think when regulators start to look into that, they'll very much see that. And actually, I think Solly in the comments kind of made another good point here. As you can see here, Solly posted, if it doesn't, FTC and UK regulators will be sued and humiliated because they're scrutinizing Microsoft acquisition when they're third, fourth, and not stepping in when market leaders are buying who they want. Now, humiliated might be a little bit of a strong wording there, but the overall post here does make a great point. See, that's the other aspect to this, because these regulators, they do have to follow a specific amount of guidelines, and even if they don't like an acquisition like this, I mean, obviously it's going to face a lot of scrutiny. It's a nearly $70 billion acquisition. They do have to look into these things, because if they, for whatever reason, decide they're not going to approve it, well, then Microsoft, they can take them to court, and if they have enough evidence to get that through court, I mean, these regulators, they don't want to deal with that either, so they have to be pretty positive that what is going on here is anti-competitive. So, and I just feel like that there's a lot of things that goes against it being anti-competitive. There's a lot of arguments against this, and yeah, I think that there's a very good chance of this acquisition making it through. It's not a 100% chance. There's nothing about it that's 100%, but again, I think it's more likely than not. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.